Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry to take 10 minutes of your time, but I'd like to present quickly. I'm Gnaneswar. I'm from the Madras Crocodile Bank Trust of Tamil Nadu, and I'd like to talk about snakebite prevention and mitigation aspects. I think my name is Gnaneswar. I'm still figuring out how to spell it right, but we are basically a zoo in Chennai. We run mostly reptile-based zoos and reptile-based conservation networks, and we also have this biggest venom collection unit in India. Okay, snakes in India are worshipped. If you go to India and ask somebody about snakes, they have so many myths, so many understandings about snakes, and they're all worshipped. Like the previous speakers mentioned, they're highly protected. So killing a snake or catching a snake or even rescuing a snake without permissions, people can be jailed. And if you know the history of India, before the British came to India, we had a lot of snake charmers in India, and a lot of it is very popular. But the most important thing each and every person in India would relate to snakes is a cobra dance, is what, after you're getting good shots of rum, you go there. So these are the common snake bite scenarios: people working in field without any proper footwear, any proper protection, people sleeping on floors in the night without any foot protection, people walking in the nights without torchlights. All this leads to snake bites, all of them. So we do a lot of outreach. We do tons of outreach. That you see, the old man there is my boss, Romulus Whitaker. And we go to communities, we go to villages, we go to schools, we go to whatnot, about 13 states of the country. And we do a lot of awareness programs, which are backed by films, huge crowd gatherings. We've also done this music film for a music video for a community that crazily caught up on. It's just fantastic. You get the crowd, you get all pumped up, and they all listen to it, they dance to it, and the important message of snakebite is distributed. We also do cartoons. We do a lot of infographics. The education should not be like this. I think I shouldn't be talking to kids there without speaker, and they should rather be more interactive. And we do a lot of street plays, innovative ways of inseminating messages, because you can't always have a captive audience. You need to randomly make a mob flash, and then people are out there listening to your messages. So yeah, so through outreach and with the help of a lot of partners, we were able to reach to over 11 states of India, and I think about 1.6 million people were benefited through these programs. We also train capacities. We train importantly the forest department staff, the snake rescuers, the first responders, or what we call them, because they are the first people who would need to be responding to a snake bite. All the drugs, all the antivenom, all the doctors would come in a much later phase. But until then, a lot of people are already involved, and the first responders are important, and they need to be trained in both removing the snake safely and also assisting people to reach to a hospital. This is just a project that we did. So, for example, a lot has been discussed upon the fact that drugs needs to be developed, or antivenom needs to be modified, or new studies that needs to be occurring. But the biggest factor in India is that it's not that people do not have access to healthcare, it's just that people don't know that they have access to healthcare. And this is where the challenge rises. About all the educational programs that we do, people do not know that they can be treated at a hospital for snakebite. And that's where education plays a really big role, because you can tell them, the communities especially, that where they can go and how they can achieve treatment. And towards that, we have done quite a lot of experiments. We do a lot of education models, which are, again, I was just telling to some of the colleagues that India is so diverse. Working in 11 states, we are having about 50, 60 education models, because everywhere people have different concepts. Somewhere people have different snakes, some have different languages. It's extremely difficult. But we chose a couple of places where we could do a model study. We have, in fact, distributed something called a snake bite prevention kit. As I say, something that would guide you through darkness, basically a torchlight, and something that protects you while you're sleeping, like a shield, basically a mosquito net. And I didn't have any reference for gumboots, so it's just gumboots. So basically, these three were distributed to communities just to make them feel a bit more safe. Of course, they do not prevent snakes from coming towards you, but they could definitely help you or help a victim in avoiding a definite snake bite scenario. And we have published this study in the Toxicon, and we have seen incredible amounts of data and different opinions. And for example, even though if you want to give these kits free of cost, people are still not ready to use it because of several cultural beliefs that they have. For example, gumboots, they cannot wear it in the field because they have very superstitious beliefs. Wearing footwear to field is something which is not that they do. So it's, even though you give them for free of cost, they're still not ready to use it. But we have been seeing that the older generations were quite reluctant, but the younger generations are slightly more used to change. And we've done the survey and we tried to understand what happened there. And we've seen that about 400 plus snakes were witnessed while the study period. And a couple of them actually gave us testimonials that because I wore the gumboots, I actually prevented a snake bite. We don't know if it's a venomous or non-venomous, but that's what can happen if people wear footwear. And most of the work that we do something called as assessments, where, for example, I go to a couple of villages before I start the education works there, and I take their knowledge, I understand the beliefs that they have, the kind of concepts that they believe, and how do they approach snakebite first aid or snakebite treatment. And then we start our education programs, outreach programs, capacity building programs, policy interventions. And then 6 months down the line, we go back to that place again, and we take the data again to see how much of the information that we gave was grasped and was actually useful. And so far it's been positive for us. Not that we have had several studies, but whatever we have done, we have seen really positive change. And India is filled with Bollywood and films, and that's the best way to inseminate messages is by having as many films as you can. And we have these really beautiful films which are extremely dramatic, and that's a very captivating way of keeping the audience and giving them information which is very important. And recently the policy for snakes and snakebite in the Northeast, it's India is so diverse. It's the antivenom that's made in mainland India is not used in Northeast India. And there's a lot more problems in the Northeast India, and we did document about it and made a film. You should all check it out sometime. This is a little bit of venom sampling that we do. I'll skip through this. But the biggest part that we do is in interfacing with Government of India. We have been recently recognized by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare as a consultant. And what we do is mostly come up with interventions, which is anything but treatment. We do not go with treatment, we don't go with venom research, but we mostly help them out with policy interventions, compensation plans, prevention models, education models, and try to come up with as many solutions as we can. Working with the Government of India is quite difficult, as with other governments, but yeah, but to keep it off, but it's really possible that the government is keen these days that they would want to make a national campaign for snakebite, a national policy for snakebites and whatnot. They're very keen on it. These are Irulas. They are spine. They are the biggest supporters. They were snake hunters. Again, during the British era, there were the snake hunters. They used to kill snakes and give for the leather industry. And since independence, we had a lot of new policies about snake protection and animal protection. So they were all jobless because they cannot kill animals anymore. So what we did was we gave them an idea. Rom Whitaker, he said that, okay, you guys are extremely knowledgeable in catching snakes. They can track a blade of a grass and say a snake has passed through this, and they track it down, they go behind it, they dig a hole, take a venomous snake out and show it to us. It's magic. It's absolutely magic. And there are about 150 families of them surviving on this very vulnerable skill. So Rom brought them in 1976 and they said that, okay, let's catch snakes, but not for killing, but let's for venom milking. And that's how the Irula Cooperative, where the biggest venom collection center in India is established. And all of these guys catch snakes throughout these 2-3 districts around us. They bring the snakes, they milk venom, and they release the snakes back. But yeah, but there's a huge demand. I mean, I wish Dr. David was here, but there's a lot of things that we've been talking with David Williams about, the fact that our facility is very old and outdated, and we want to improve upon it. So we are trying to work on it. We're trying to come up with a state-of-the-art serpentarium which would follow the GMP practices. And for that, I need to take a lot of institutions into consideration, thanks to LSTM, who is offering their support and giving us some technical advices. The Government of Tamil Nadu is keen to fund this project. So we hope that they follow up on that. This is another study that I'm really keen to talk about, is the snakebite registry, which is one of the kind in India. I think it's one of the kind in the world also, because the previous registry is in America. And this is a live registry where every snakebite patient that comes to a government hospital, their details are filled in this. Of course, not every patient now, but certain hospitals are doing it very regularly. And what it does is it sort of it's not about, we cannot get the 58,000 deaths report into this registry for sure. But what we are getting is much more beyond data, epidemiological data. Is about how the snake bite is occurring. What is it that's stopping from a person from achieving treatment? And how long is it taking? How are they commuting to the hospital? Are they all opting ambulance, or are they opting private transportation, self modes of transportation? That helped us in sort of creating our education and prevention models around around those areas. And this is how the data is. For example, is just a little bit of data there, and we see a lot of different data. For example, we have seen that most of you know that people who die in night or people who die in sleep are usually the ones who are bitten by kraits. But in this set, we have also seen that of the people who got bitten by snakes while sleeping, quite a few of them were bitten by viperids, and that was not during the night, that was during the afternoons. And that's something that was eye-opener for us, like, oh, that's another way of getting bitten, because in the afternoons, in the peak afternoons in agricultural farmlands, it's about 45 degrees in plus. So the farmers take a break. They like to go take a nap. And while taking a nap, they usually go to a shade where a snake is also avoiding sunlight and hiding there. And vipers, especially saw-scale vipers, I believe, are there and they get bitten. And that's something that we've realized. And we've been telling people ever since then, okay, even if you're sleeping in the afternoon, make sure that you look for your surroundings. And our education models have these data-driven adventures have left us a lot of scope to diversify our education models and make it as specific to that geographic point, not political point, but to that geographic point as possible. And we also run a mobile application with the help of another organization called Serpent. The previous speaker spoke about the rescuers, and this is very similar that we do in Kerala, another state, where we have an application where there are I think about 600 rescuers who regularly update us on what snakes that they catch, what venomous snakes, where they're releasing, helps us to understand the ecology of snakes. And we also help snakebite patients to locate the nearby hospital. For example, if somebody is bitten by a snake in one part of Kerala, we help them in understanding what is the nearby hospital that is known for treating snake bites. We cannot randomly, this information is available on Google Maps, but we try to help them out in understanding what is the nearby hospital that treats snake bite. So ultimately what we are doing is we're promoting coexistence. I know it's a bit of conservation. I come from a conservation background, but ultimately we're promoting coexistence, and we're trying to let people understand that conserving snakes or conserving avoiding snake bites is as good as ignorance. In their case, ignorance is a bliss. If they could ignore snakes in their backyards, that's what my first photo, the cover photo, was also about, is if you don't provoke them, they don't provoke you back. And that's been our ultimate line, and it's really hard to get into minds. But most of our work has been around this. And to promote coexistence, the most important thing we need is funding. And as I certainly say, funding will be welcomed. So some sort of funding would be very helpful, because a lot of work in India requires a lot of seed grants and a lot more funding. And we still haven't had the chance to upscale our work to a really massive crowd. Thank you very much for your time. And I hope I haven't taken much. And this is how you can contact me, or I'm right there at right next to the door. I can block you if you want. And I can give you my card. Yeah, coming to UK is quite expensive, but thanks to some of the funding support from Ophirex, Dr. Jose Maria, Dr. Shakti, the Global Snakebite Initiative, and also the organizing committee for some discount, and the Madras Crocodile Bank Trust. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Online, are there any questions? Okay. Well, I'm sure people will come to see you and discuss with you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.